Okay, imagine this for a second. What if you could dream? I mean, really dream. Anything you wanted.
Anything at all.
Yeah, anything. And not just, a regular night's dream. Imagine you could live out, say, 75 subjective years, all packed into just 8 hours of sleep.
Wow. Okay, 75 years. I'd probably start with, like, fulfilling every possible wish, right? Amazing adventures, perfect love, hearing music nobody's ever imagined.
Totally. But after a while, maybe decades of just pure bliss, wouldn't that get a little, I don't know, boring, predictable?
Yeah, I could see that. You'd probably start wanting a challenge, maybe some risk, like rescuing a princess from a dragon, something with stakes.
Exactly. And then, this is the kicker, you might even choose to forget it's a dream.
Ah, okay. To make the danger feel real, the anxiety feel real.
Right. To see how lost you could get, how much you could really push the boundaries of forgetting your own power, but always knowing deep down you'd eventually wake up.
That's a fascinating thought experiment.
Well, then Alan Watts, he just leans in and asks, how do you know that that's not what you're doing right now?
Huh. Classic Watts, isn't it? Right into the deep end. He just pulls you into this huge philosophical question, borrowing straight from Hindu ideas. It sets the whole stage.
Absolutely. And that's what we're doing today, a deep dive into the really fascinating world of Alan Watts, this British-American guy, philosopher, writer, speaker. He didn't just explain Eastern thought to the West. He sort of rewired how people thought about themselves.
Yeah, he really did.
So our mission today is to unpack how he did that, how he translated these really complex ideas from Hinduism, Zen, Taoism, and look at his big ideas like the universe being a divine play or this wisdom of insecurity concept.
And we also had to touch on, his legacy, why he still matters, but also the controversies, right?
Yeah.
Because they're definitely part of the story.
Definitely. And for this dive, we've got a mix of stuff, bits from his actual lectures, which are amazing to listen to, essays about him, some academic takes, and even how he popped up in pop culture.
It's a good mix. Gives a pretty rounded picture, I think.
So yeah, get comfortable. We're hoping this chat feels a bit like Watt's own style, engaging, maybe a bit mind-bending. He called it spiritual entertainment, and we want to explore those insights into ourselves and, well, everything. Let's get into it.
Okay, so the first thing that just jumps out about Watts is his incredible talent for translation, not just words, but concepts.
Right. He could take these really foreign Eastern philosophies and make them click for a Western audience in a way that, honestly, nobody else was really doing back then.
It wasn't just about avoiding, like, tricky Sanskrit terms, though he often did, or he'd explain them really carefully.
Yeah, using analogies people already understood, like from science or psychology or even Christian mysticism, surprisingly. He was building bridges.
Totally. And his main focus was always on the experience. What does it feel like to see the world this way? Less about memorizing doctrines, more about a shift in how you perceive things.
Direct insight, yeah. And
Yeah.
the way he delivered it, his lectures with that, warm, witty British accent.
Yeah.
They weren't stuffy talks.
Not at all. They felt like conversations, full of jokes, laughter, these paradoxes that make you stop and think. Spiritual entertainment was the perfect phrase for it.
He was smart about media, too, wasn't he? Radio shows, vinyl records, tapes.
Oh, yeah, way ahead of his time, like proto-podcasting, really. It got his ideas way beyond just academic circles. He became this, like, counterculture voice.
And he leaned into it, calling himself a spiritual entertainer, a genuine fake, even an irreducible rascal.
Which is kind of brilliant, isn't it? That self-awareness, it let him connect.
How so?
Well, he wasn't presenting Eastern thought as some exotic artifact. He framed it more like a missing piece, something that could help with specifically Western anxieties.
Ah, like a corrective. What kind of anxieties?
He often talked about our sort of relentless goal chasing, always focused on the future, never satisfied now. And this feeling of being separate, what he called the skin-encapsulated ego.
This idea that I am just this thing inside my skin, separate from the world out there.
Exactly. He argued that feeling of separation is actually the root of a lot of our striving and unease because it denies how connected we actually are.
Okay, so that feeling of being separate makes us anxious because it's not actually true.
That was his argument. He'd say we're constantly trying to control everything out there because we feel separate in here, but then he'd connect this to, say, ecology, how everything's interdependent, or even quantum physics, hinting that reality isn't separate bits, but a unified field.
So he's using modern science to back up these ancient ideas. Yeah. It makes it feel very relevant, not just old wisdom.
Right. And it loops right back to that dream question you started with, wanting adventure, wanting risk, even wanting to forget you're the dreamer.
To make it feel real.
Yeah. And that's his doorway into the Hindu view of the universe. It's not something made, like a machine. It's more like a drama, a play.
A play starring God or the self-Brahman Atman, the big I am. Who gets bored with knowing everything?
He used that great analogy. If you had Aladdin's lamp and got everything instantly, eventually you'd want a button labeled surprise.
Huh? Yeah, I can see that. So God basically says, let's get lost for a while.
Kind of. Which brings in Leela and Maya. Leela is this divine play, spontaneous, joyful, kind of purposeless in the best way. And Maya isn't just illusion. It's more like God's creative power, the art, the magic that makes this whole show seem real.
So the universe is God playing hide-and-seek with himself. The actor and audience are the same.
That's the essence of it. It's a big act. And Watts was quick to point out echoes elsewhere, too. Like in Christianity, St. Paul talking about Christ humbling himself, becoming human.
A kind of divine forgetting for the sake of the game.
Exactly. Or even Aquinas comparing divine wisdom to playing games, like music or dance things done for their own sake. Watts loved that quote, "The angels fly because they take themselves lightly."
It suggests existence is serious, but maybe not solemn. There's a lightness to it.
A playfulness. So if that's the cosmic backdrop of this divine game, what about our own lives, our search for security?
Yeah, that brings us to The Wisdom of Insecurity. Huge book for him. What's the core message there?
Basically, that real peace doesn't come from trying to grab onto things and make them permanent, because nothing is. It comes from embracing the flow, the change.
That sounds hard.
Well, yeah, he had this jarring image. Looking for security is like jumping off a cliff but holding onto a rock you took with you.
Whoa. Okay. An absurd illusion.
Right.
Yeah.
Everything's always changing, like smoke. Trying to stop it is just wasted effort. Life's a bridge, he'd say. Cross it, but don't build your house on it.
That really challenges our cultural instinct to build, achieve, make things last. It reminds me of samsara in Hinduism, the rat race, right?
Exactly, the endless cycle of striving. And the way out, moksha, is liberation, waking up from that. Watts would ask, if you're always hoping for the future, are you actually living now?
Good question. Recognizing that things are transient isn't depressing in this view. It's actually freeing.
That's the idea. It frees you from the anxiety of trying to hold on. And this ties right into non-duality.
The idea that the separation we feel, me versus the world, subject versus object, isn't ultimately real.
Yeah. That skin-encapsulated ego is a useful convention for, getting around town, but believing it's the real you causes suffering, where actually the universe experiencing itself through this particular point.
Okay, so how does something like Zen, which he talked about a lot, help with that in practice?
Well, Zen emphasizes things like munin, being fully present, now-minded, and mushin, an empty mind, not constantly churning with plans and thoughts. It's about experiencing life directly, without the ego constantly filtering and judging.
Experiencing, not just thinking about it.
Exactly, which leads to another key idea, the unity of opposites.
Good and evil, creation and destruction. They aren't enemies.
In Zen and Taoism, not really. They're like poles of a magnet. You can't have one without the other. They're necessary point into the whole cosmic game. Trying to eliminate one is misunderstanding the game.
Heraclitus said similar things in the West, didn't he? The idea that conflict is essential.
He did. It's a challenging idea. Reminds me of John Cage's response when asked if there's too much suffering. I think there's just the right amount.
Wow. That's provocative. It accepts the whole package, doesn't it?
It does, and Watts put this into the context of Hindu time cycles, too, these immense kalpas, millions of years long, representing the universe breathing in and out, manifesting and unmanifesting.
And within those, the yugas, the ages moving from gold to decline.
Ending with Shiva's dance of destruction. But Shiva isn't just destruction, he's liberation. One hand gestures, don't be afraid, it's all a game, a big act. It's cyclical.
It's a huge perspective shift. Thinking about Watts himself, his own path was pretty unique from the start, wasn't it?
Oh, absolutely. He was drawn to Chinese and Japanese art as a kid in England, felt something was missing in the West's approach to, the body and experience. He became secretary of the London Buddhist Lodge when he was just 16.
16, wow. And published his first book on Zen at 21. That's going against the current back then.
Totally. He was largely self-taught, always a bit rebellious, didn't like institutions much. That spirit really shaped his whole approach.
And his influence just exploded, didn't it? Books like The Way of Zen, Wisdom of Insecurity, they became essential reading for so many people exploring these ideas.
Huge influence. On the Beat Generation Kerouac writing about him. On musicians, maybe indirectly through figures like Maharishi, but also bands like Pink Floyd. Van Morrison seemed to tap into that vibe.
So he wasn't offering a specific meditation technique like some others.
Not really, no. He was less about a specific practice or guru, more about providing this intellectual framework, this kind of permission slip for people to explore spirituality outside traditional boxes. He, Ram Dass, Maharishi, they all played different roles in bringing this stuff mainstream.
And you can see the ripples today, right? Mindfulness, secular spirituality, even ecological thinking. He helped open those doors.
Definitely. But we should also talk about the problem with Alan Watts, as some people put it.
Right, the critiques.
Yeah.
Academics sometimes called it pop philosophy, or beat Zen, maybe too simplified.
Yeah, that was one line of criticism. And then there was his personal life, the drinking, the multiple marriages, not always being the most present father, which seemed to some to clash with the teachings.
It's a real paradox, isn't it? Does the philosopher's life have to perfectly match the philosophy for the ideas to hold water?
It's a huge question. Watts himself was pretty open about it. He never set himself up as a guru or a saintly example. He owned his rascality, as he put it.
So how do we square that?
Well, he might say that the rascal and the saint are part of the same cosmic play. For some people, his flaws made him relatable, showed that you didn't have to be perfect to grasp these truths. For others, it just looked like hypocrisy. The sources we looked at acknowledge both sides.
He kind of leaves you to wrestle with it yourself.
Yeah, maybe that's part of the point, too.
So bringing it all together, Watt's voice, it really does still resonate, doesn't it? Challenging us.
Absolutely. He prods you to question your assumptions, get comfortable with ambiguity, maybe even find some joy in the fact that nothing lasts forever.
And his skill in weaving together East and West, that feels incredibly relevant now in our globalized world. Shows how we can learn across cultures.
It's a great model for that kind of creative, cross-cultural thinking.
So as we finish up this deep dive, maybe here's a final thought to leave you with, something Watts might appreciate. What if all this striving we do, looking for meaning out there, trying to lock down future happiness, what if that's the very thing distracting us from the dance happening right now? If the universe really is God playing hide and seek, what part are you playing? And are you really playing?